Since the dawn of civilization, humanity has been obsessed with crossing the boundaries of death itself. Places where nature seemed to draw an invisible line, warning us to stop pitch-black oceans with endless depths, towering canyons that vanish into darkness, and raging rivers powerful enough to swallow everything in their path. But the desire to connect the world has never allowed us to surrender. Instead of turning back, humanity chose to rise into the sky. We built colossal steel structures piercing through the oceans, suspended highways, hanging thousands of feet above terrifying abysses, and forced ribbons of concrete to cling to the most unstable cliff faces imaginable, places where it seems impossible to even place a single footstep. But look closer. These structures are far more than ordinary transportation routes. They are monuments to human intelligence, proof that mankind can create breathtaking architectural masterpieces against impossible odds. Yet nature has never been truly conquered. In the harshest and most remote corners of the planet, safety becomes dangerously fragile. Some of these structures are absolutely not for the faint of heart. They hover above bottomless chasms, where sunlight barely reaches bend under violent hurricane-force winds, and endure earthquakes measuring as high as magnitude 9 on the Richter scale. Today, Scapes Travel will take you on a journey filled with awe, fear, and pure adrenaline, revealing 25 of the greatest, most insane, and most dangerous bridges humanity has ever dared to build. Take a deep breath and ask yourself one question. Would you have the courage to drive across, walk above, and stare directly into these unimaginable depths? We begin our journey at the very first level of fear and fascination. These structures may not directly threaten your life yet, but their overwhelming scale alone is enough to leave you breathless. Standing before them, you suddenly realize just how small and fragile human beings truly are. Let your imagination drift toward the fog-covered bay of America's west coast, where one of the world's most iconic landmarks stretches across a majestic strait. Holding the 25th spot on this list is the legendary Golden Gate Bridge. But do not let its brilliant international orange color deceive you. When the thick Pacific fog rolls in and swallows that fiery glow, the massive structure emerges only as a shadowy giant looming through the mist. Crossing this bridge means traveling across a monument to human resilience, a breathtaking structure born during the Great Depression and built to withstand the devastating earthquakes that have long haunted California. Leaving behind California's restless fault lines, we travel to the freezing winds and endless waterways of England for number 24, the Humber Bridge. The sense of stability beneath your feet begins to disappear as you look up at the enormous concrete towers rising more than 500 feet into the gray northern sky. Constantly battered by violent winds sweeping across the river, the immense suspension cables create a stunning sight from above, a perfect fusion of modern engineering and the harsh, untamed beauty of northeastern England. But if the United Kingdom makes you uneasy, the next megastructure at number 23 will leave you completely stunned by its sheer size. In the windswept waters of the Aegean Sea, The 1915 Çanakkale Bridge rises like a modern wonder connecting Europe and Asia. The first thing that strikes you is not merely its length, but the overwhelming scale of the structure itself. As the world's longest suspension bridge by main span, its presence makes everything around it seem unbelievably tiny. Massive size is one thing, but what happens when a structure begins to play tricks on your mind and distort your sense of reality? At number 22, the incredible connection between Sweden and Denmark delivers exactly that experience. From the Swedish coastline, the mighty Øresund bridge cuts across the sea for nearly 5 miles. But then, in the middle of the empty ocean near an artificial island, the gigantic bridge suddenly disappears. It vanishes beneath the surface and transforms into a tunnel plunging directly beneath the seabed. Driving your own vehicle straight down into the depths of the ocean feels less like a normal commute and more like a brutal psychological test. After escaping the damp darkness of the underwater tunnel, we head eastward to witness another engineering obsession at number 21. From the sky, the colossal bridge stretching across Jiaozhou Bay in China appears almost endless, as though it has no finish line at all. The Jiaozhou Bay Bridge is a masterpiece capable of astonishing anyone who sees it. Yet the true terror is not on the highway. Above, it lies hidden beneath the calm waters below. More than 5,200 giant concrete pillars are driven deep into the ocean floor, supported by nearly 500,000 tons of steel, enough to build almost 65 Eiffel Towers. Engineers claim the bridge can survive magnitude 8 earthquakes, violent typhoons, and even impacts from ships weighing more than 300,000 tons. As you drive across its nearly 26-mile length, surrounded by endless fog and dark blue water, the overwhelming sense of isolation becomes impossible to ignore. Some places terrify people not because they are impossibly high or instantly deadly, but because of the horrifying feeling of being swallowed whole by endless fog-violent storms and the realization that there is no escape, either ahead or behind you. At number 20, we head deep into the open ocean to America's legendary 7-mile bridge. Stretching nearly 7 miles across open water, this winding structure is completely exposed between two enormous bodies of water, the Gulf of Mexico on one side and the Atlantic Ocean on the other. Driving across it feels almost like flying low above the surface of the sea itself. Although it is considered one of the most beautiful ocean highways in the world, its beauty carries a constant sense of danger. The bridge that once stood here was hailed as the 8th wonder of the world for being built across open ocean waters before a historic hurricane completely destroyed it in 1935. Even today, the fury of the ocean still feels ready to repeat history at any moment. That feeling of isolation grows even heavier at number 19, China's colossal Hangzhou Bay Bridge. This massive S-shaped sea bridge stretches more than 22 miles across the bay and was engineered with a projected lifespan of 100 years. As your vehicle climbs higher onto the bridge, the coastline slowly disappears behind you until you are left completely alone in the middle of endless water. During storms and heavy fog, visibility can vanish entirely. In every direction, there may be nothing but white mist blending into the sea itself, transforming the drive into a psychological battle against disorientation and panic as your sense of direction completely disappears. That disorientation reaches its breaking point at number 18, a true psychological nightmare stretching nearly 24 miles across the waters of Louisiana, the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. It remains the longest continuous bridge over water on Earth, supported by more than 9,500 concrete pillars. Driving across at 65 miles per hour still takes around 30 minutes, yet the experience feels endless, almost eternal. Once you reach the middle and slowly turn in every direction, all you see is water. No shoreline, no land, nothing. The haunting repetition of endless straight lanes and thousands of identical concrete supports beneath Louisiana's storm-filled skies creates an almost surreal illusion. The steady rhythm of tires humming across the bridge joints becomes hypnotic, a mechanical lullaby capable of making drivers drowsy. It slowly numbs the mind, weakens concentration, and transforms the crossing into an intensely stressful psychological test. To push the limits of human endurance even further, number 17 brings us into the bone-chilling cold of Canada. The Confederation Bridge stretches roughly 8 miles connecting Prince Edward Island to mainland New Brunswick across brutal ice-covered waters. This is far more than a transportation route. It is a monument to perseverance. To pour the 62 massive concrete piers, engineers had to patiently wait for the tides to retreat, giving them only a few precious hours each day to battle the violent ocean conditions. The bridge was intentionally designed with gentle curves to help keep drivers alert during the crossing. At the same time, it constantly faces powerful wind gusts, capable of forcing bridge closures or mandatory speed reductions to prevent catastrophic accidents. And when it comes to truly merciless weather, almost nothing compares to number 16, Russia's gigantic Russky Bridge. This colossal steel and concrete structure rises proudly from the city of Vladivostok toward the storm-ravaged Russian Far East. Its 2 towering pylons soar more than 1,000 feet high, nearly matching the height of the Eiffel Tower. Crossing it feels like gliding above the ocean at an altitude of more than 200 feet, while violent wind gusts slam against your vehicle. The terrifying reality is that this bridge must constantly endure hurricane-force winds reaching nearly 80 miles per hour, along with brutal temperature swings that can plunge to -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Here, nature does not merely threaten isolation. It feels as though it wants to tear the bridge apart with raw, primitive force. Finally, we arrive at number 15, where the fear begins directly beneath your tires. Welcome to the wind-battered Mackinac Bridge, connecting Michigan's upper and lower peninsulas. To survive the enormous wind pressure constantly sweeping through this region, engineers were forced to design the 2 inner traffic lanes using open steel grating instead of solid concrete. That means when you drive across the road beneath your vehicle becomes almost invisible. Through the steel mesh below your wheels, you are forced to stare directly down into the dark waters swirling more than 200 feet beneath you. That terrifying emptiness instantly awakens a primal fear deep inside your mind. Your heartbeat accelerates, and your hands instinctively tighten around the steering wheel. Once the safety of solid ground disappears behind us, we begin entering the realm of the sky itself, where the air grows thinner and the wind screams through every opening. At number 14 stands a challenge capable of making even experienced drivers break into a cold sweat. the Chesapeake Bay Bridge-Tunnel. As your vehicle slowly climbs toward its highest point, nearly 180 feet above the water, the horizon seems to stretch endlessly into the distance. But the most terrifying detail is how shockingly low the side barriers feel, creating the constant illusion that one powerful gust could throw you straight into the ocean below. Completely exposed in the middle of vast open water crosswinds become a relentless threat. During violent storms, drivers can actually feel their vehicles being pushed sideways by the force of the wind. The steep inclines make the experience feel less like driving on a highway and more like climbing the peak of a massive roller coaster. The true nightmare, however, is the absence of emergency lanes. If anything goes wrong, you are stranded high above the water, blocking one of the region's most critical transportation arteries while being left at the mercy of the raging storm winds. The terror of the sky continues into Japan at number 13 with the legendary Akashi Kaikyō Bridge. This is far more than a suspension bridge stretching nearly 2.5 miles. It is a true steel fortress rising from the sea itself. Its twin towers soar more than 900 feet high, standing like giant sentinels guarding the strait below. Driving across it feels as though you are floating between the boundary of sky and water, no longer traveling on a road, but gliding through the air. What makes this structure truly extraordinary is that it was designed to dance with death itself. Engineers built it specifically to absorb devastating earthquakes and survive typhoon-force winds reaching nearly 180 miles per hour. If soaring above the ocean still is not enough, fasten your seatbelt as we climb to number 12. France's breathtaking Millau Viaduct. This is what it feels like to drive on top of the clouds. The tallest tower rises more than 1,100 feet into the sky, turning the river valley below into a seemingly bottomless abyss. On misty mornings, thick clouds completely erase the ground beneath you. Looking out from the bridge, the canyon disappears into a sea of white, while the massive suspension cables emerge faintly through the fog like giant strings playing a haunting symphony in the sky. Suspended in mid-air, completely isolated above the earth, you lose all sense of where the fall would end if even the smallest mistake occurred. Leaving France behind, we return to Japan to confront number 11, a structure that looks more like an architectural nightmare than a real bridge, the Eshima Ohashi Bridge. Forget elegant suspension cables. This is essentially a roller coaster made of solid concrete. To allow enormous cargo ships to pass underneath, engineers designed the bridge with an unbelievably steep incline. From a distance, the roadway appears almost vertical, as though it rises straight into the sky. Any vehicle attempting to climb this monstrous slope must push its engine to the limit. The feeling of the steering wheel growing heavy while your car seems ready to slide backward at any second is enough to leave even veteran drivers with sweat-soaked palms. Once we step out of enclosed vehicles and into the open air itself, fear begins to sink directly into the skin. At number 10 stands Switzerland's terrifying Peak Walk by Tissot. Imagine standing nearly 10,000 feet above sea level, crossing a suspension bridge hanging between two jagged mountain peaks. At this altitude, the air becomes painfully thin, and the cold dominates everything around you. Walking across its 350-foot span feels like stepping directly into the clouds, while staring down at endless glaciers far below. The breathtaking panorama of more than 24 surrounding mountain peaks only deepens the overwhelming realization of how small and fragile you are against the brutality of nature. The silence of the sky is broken only by the howl of the wind and the pounding of your own heartbeat. Still in Switzerland, the threat of death reaches another level at number 9 with the terrifying Titlis cliff walk. Suspended nearly 10,000 feet above sea level, this structure pushes human fear to its absolute limit. You are not simply walking through the sky, you are confronting the fury of nature head-on. The bridge was engineered to survive winds exceeding 120 miles per hour and the crushing weight of massive snowstorms. The moment you release your grip from the railing and continue forward, icy clouds drift directly beneath your feet, exposing a frozen abyss ready to swallow anything that falls into it. In that instant, you realize your life is being held by nothing more than a narrow strip of metal hanging above the vast power of the Alps. Closing out this journey through the skies is number 8, hidden deep within the tropical rainforests of Malaysia, the incredible Langkawi Sky Bridge. Unlike ordinary bridges, this is a giant curved ribbon of steel stretching more than 400 feet through the air. The truly insane part is that the entire structure is suspended from a single towering pylon, standing nearly 270 feet tall. Walking across its glass panels and steel grating creates the surreal sensation of floating weightlessly above the jungle canopy. Whenever powerful winds from the Andaman Sea slam into the surrounding cliffs, the entire bridge trembles violently beneath your feet, triggering an overwhelming sense of instability. The breathtaking 360-degree panorama surrounding you only makes the experience more terrifying, because every vibration beneath your steps serves as a reminder that gravity is patiently waiting in the abyss below. Once the clouds themselves are no longer enough to terrify us, fear begins pulling our eyes downward into the abyss below. Welcome to the realm of bottomless chasms, where colossal structures stretch across canyons so deep that a single misstep would leave no chance of survival. At number 7 stands America's legendary Royal Gorge Bridge. Suspended nearly 1,000 feet above the winding Arkansas River, this bridge hangs between towering canyon walls like a fragile thread in the sky. From above, the train crawling along the riverbank below looks no larger than a strand of string. But the true terror is not the scenery it lies directly beneath your feet. Unlike modern steel roadways, the bridge deck is made entirely of wooden planks. Every time powerful gusts sweep through the canyon or footsteps echo across the surface, the wood creaks and groans with horrifying realism. The entire structure trembles ever so slightly, and in that instant, your deepest survival instincts awaken, forcing you to confront the overwhelming power of nature itself. At number 6, fear transforms into a brutal test of courage with China's famous Zhangjiajie glass bridge. Stretching more than 1,400 feet across a canyon, nearly 1,000 feet deep, This structure hangs above the dramatic cliffs of Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon, like a transparent trap suspended in the sky. The moment your feet touch the glass floor, your legs weaken, and your heartbeat pounds violently against your chest. Walking across perfectly clear panels while staring directly into the endless void below creates an almost unbearable psychological terror. Your brain constantly screams that the glass beneath you could shatter at any second, sending you plunging into the abyss with absolutely no escape. That terrifying realism, combined with a surge of pure adrenaline, has caused countless visitors to panic and turn back before reaching the other side. Beyond the limits of imagination itself, number 5 belongs to the breathtaking Wujiang Canyon Bridge. This gigantic structure stretches across one of China's most dangerous limestone mountain regions, extending nearly 1 3/4 miles from end to end. Imagine standing more than 2,000 feet above the river, below the equivalent of looking down from the top of a skyscraper over 200 stories tall. From this impossible height, the once mighty river appears reduced to nothing more than a thin blue ribbon winding through the canyon floor. Surrounded by sheer vertical cliffs, the scenery is both majestic and deeply terrifying. At such an extreme altitude, the force of the wind becomes a deadly challenge of its own. The howl of air rushing through the steel cables carries an invisible threat, while simultaneously revealing the astonishing strength of the bridge's colossal structure. The deeper we move into the list, the closer the abyss seems to crawl toward us. At number 4 stands China's incredible Sidu River Bridge, suspended across a canyon so deep it almost defies belief. When it opened in 2009, it became the tallest bridge on Earth at the time, with the roadway hanging nearly 1,600 feet above the river below. Driving across feels like floating between clouds while being trapped between 2 nearly vertical cliff walls. But the most horrifying aspect of this bridge comes from a chilling reality created by its immense height. Many people claim that if an object falls from the railing, the canyon beneath is so deep that the object would reach terminal velocity long before it ever struck the bottom. And finally, closing out the realm of the abyss, at number 3 is one of the true rulers of the sky, China's Duge Bridge. Towering more than 1,800 feet above the canyon floor, this structure is not simply a transportation route. It is one of humanity's greatest engineering masterpieces. From a distance, vehicles approaching the bridge appear like tiny ribbons suspended between 2 vertical mountain walls. Constructing a massive cable-stayed bridge across such unstable limestone terrain was considered a geological nightmare. Yet despite its staggering height and relentless crosswinds, the roadway itself feels remarkably stable, proving the extraordinary precision of the engineers who designed it. Even so, no amount of concrete or steel can stop the human imagination from being consumed by the monstrous abyss waiting beneath. We have crossed extraordinary wonders protected by millions of dollars and the brilliance of world-class engineering minds. But the absolute limit of terror does not belong to high-tech mega-projects. When all protection disappears, human engineering gives way to the most brutal survival laws imaginable. At number 2, we travel deep into the frozen wilderness of Siberia to confront a true death trap. Russia's infamous Kuandinsky Bridge. Spanning the raging Vitum River, This collapsing structure was originally part of an abandoned railway project decades ago and was never officially recognized as safe for automobiles. Stretching nearly 2,000 feet long, the bridge is only about 6.5 feet wide, barely enough space for a vehicle's tires. There are no reinforced suspension cables, no massive support towers, and absolutely no guardrails protecting you from the river below. The bridge surface itself is a nightmare, stitched together from warped, decaying wooden planks, weakened by decades of brutal Arctic winters. Imagine inching forward across an icy surface, moving only inches at a time, while frozen wind lashes against your vehicle. Some drivers are so terrified that they roll down their windows while crossing both to reduce the risk of being blown over and to leave themselves a possible escape route if the vehicle plunges into the river. Beneath the crushing weight of metal, every wooden plank groans and cracks through the silence of the Siberian wilderness. One tiny slip of a tire or one sudden gust of wind is all it takes to send everything crashing into the freezing waters below, where death arrives within minutes and nobody gets a second chance. And now, the ultimate peak of fear itself. Number 1. A place where the line between life and death is separated only by a single misplaced step. Welcome to the remote mountains of Pakistan, home to what many call the most dangerous bridge on Earth, the terrifying Hussaini suspension bridge. Forget the safety of enclosed vehicles here. Your own feet are the only thing standing between survival and disaster. Hanging above the roaring waters of the Hangzhou River, this bridge is a living nightmare built from the crudest materials imaginable. Its entire structure, stretching hundreds of feet across the canyon, is held together by worn ropes and aging cables, twisted into place by hand. Violent winds sweep endlessly through the gorges of the Karakoram Mountains, causing the entire bridge to sway and twist violently with every gust. But the most horrifying detail lies beneath your feet. The rotten wooden planks are spaced so far apart that enormous gaps expose the raging glacier-fed river below. Every step demands that you stretch your legs across open space while staring directly into the gray, roaring torrent beneath you. Every movement becomes a battle against overwhelming panic as your brain screams constant warnings of danger. Your hands tighten painfully around the fragile side cables, desperately fighting to maintain balance while praying the wind does not tear you away into the abyss. Out here, there are no safety nets, no rescue systems, and absolutely no forgiveness for a single careless moment. There is only raw human courage standing face to face against the savage brutality of the natural world.